All right, we are live. How's everybody doing? I know we're going to fill in a little bit here. So today I was supposed to live stream yesterday, but it was Father's Day. And then I meant to live stream earlier today, but I had a tattoo that ran really late and I had to work on that. So we're doing it a little bit later. So hopefully we get a lot of people in here and we have a good time. Today I am going to work on another layer of color for the mermaid piece. This is an ongoing piece that we will keep streaming until it's finished. And yeah, so tonight we're going to add another layer to it. So if you guys are in here watching, could you guys do me a huge favor and comment and let me know that you're here? Yeah, if you are watching on the Patreon page, if you want to comment so that I can see it, jump into the YouTube link and I'll be able to read your comments there. Also, for all of my Patreon people, we're going to do a free month this month while we're going to just do one tier, probably just a $5 tier for the next several months, just until I can finish the mermaid and until I can get a couple of my tutorials finished. I have another portrait tutorial I'm about to do and a few other tutorials, and instead of having you guys pay and waiting on me to get them finished, I'm going to get them finished first, let you guys have something for a little bit cheaper, and build up, you know, a good amount of tutorials that way. So for now, we're going to keep working on the mermaid series, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, I will say that we do have a the next one is that memorial piece, and I'm feeling a lot of pressure to get that done. So we're gonna get this mermaid finished so I can get on that memorial piece that we've been talking about. All right, what's up, Mikey Dredge? Yeah, thank you. Brian, what's up? Scott, what's up? Wiz Kid, My Cat VP, John Quarterman, what's up, man? All right, so today is going to be a little more tutorial than the other days. I'm actually going to talk about how I mix my colors, and this is a public one for YouTube. This is letting you guys know kind of what the Patreon's going to be about. We already have a full-length tutorial on Patreon that is my monochromatic tutorial. It's the same process that I use when I teach my classes at the Airbrush Art Circus and other events like that. That tutorial is on Patreon right now if you want to watch it. And it's a full-length tutorial. It's 32 parts, 34 parts, something like that. And yeah, so right now we're doing a color piece. So what's up, Hater? How you doing? All right, so to start off, I'm gonna make the dark colors. So the last stream we made the light colors. So as you know, these are it's a layered process, and we're just gonna work on the skin tone today. So I find that the bottom layers are more in the orange or yellow family of kind of brown. So basically, how I made that color is I started off with. So this is the base color. I started off with the Bloodline series. This is Tim Gore's illustration Dermis Tan. And what I did is I mixed different types of brown to it. So I mixed a little bit of burnt sienna to it. And then I just tinted the color using reds and greens and that sort of thing until I landed on a color that I was happy with. And then I did a second layer that was slightly darker than that with a little more red in it. So now we're going to do a third layer of the skin tone, and I'm going to use my reference to find the color. But if you guys want a real quick like cheat sheet, how do you make skin tone if you're talking about like Caucasian skin, it's usually if you just take white and add a brown to it. That's your first layer. So if their skin is a little more on the orange side, then you want to use a more orangey brown. If their skin is more on the you know, purple side or whatever. And also it tends to be that some of the cooler colors are in the shadows, but we'll get into that later. So let me find my reference here. I had it pulled up earlier. So it looks like, judging on my reference, I'm going to try to make a color that's a little bit in the cooler brown. So it takes me a minute to find my color, so I'll just show you my whole process here. So I think I'm going to start with, this is Coagulated Crimson from Cratex Illustration Colors. And I always mix inside my cup. So I've already got some reducer in here, and the reducer is filled to right about the elbow. So just a little bit in there, and that gives us at least a place to start. So we'll give that a little bit of a shake and kind of see what color we have to start off with. Now that's very, very red. Let's see here. Oh, so I left paint in my airbrush last time, so we might have to use my gold airbrush today, because it is spraying like crap. So don't leave paint in your airbrush. Let's use the gold one. So no micron today, because I need to clean it. I know the gold one is clean, because it's an Eclipse. One good thing about using an Eclipse, it works every time. So we'll start over. We'll use the Coagulated Crimson. Same thing, we're pouring a little bit of 4012 reducer. Now that crimson, as I said, it's pretty red. So it's always good to know the color wheel. So the opposite of red, if something is too red, you want to add green, and that'll kill the red. So what I've got here is illustration Viridian. So we're going to add a little bit of that to our Coagulated Crimson and see what we come up with. There's about 3 drops. It's probably not a lot, enough to kill the red, but we'll see what we got here. I'm going to turn it upside down, give it a shake. And what we'll probably end up having to do is add some, oh, there we go. Wow, that went right into the right family right away. Okay, that's a nice color. So I'm spraying off my color right on the side. So it's a little on the purple side of things. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of, let's see. We're going to add some yellow to it. And I'll move it into orange a little bit. We'll see what that does. Spraying off my color. We're getting closer. Pretty close, actually. I think maybe a little more yellow should get us almost there. Let's just do 2 drops of yellow. All right. Kind of like that color. Let's see what this looks like on the skin tone. So just to recap, I started off with Coagulated Crimson. I added a little bit of the illustration Viridian to it, and then a couple of drops of yellow, and that got me pretty close. Now, when testing your color, because I don't pre-mix my colors, I mix them in the cup. So when I test it in a really dark area of the skin tone and just see how it acts. And so far, it feels like money to me. I think that's it. So now let's make it spray smoother. So I'm going to add some 40-30 to it. So 40-30 helps it smooth out. So I get a little bit of a smoother blend. And then I can add more reducer to it and it won't water down. All right. Okay, let's see if that does. It's pretty transparent right now. All right, that's a nice color. You'll notice in this mixture I didn't add any white. So that means it's going to have a huge impact on the skin tone. Now remember, if you guys get the color just a little bit off, you can shift colors around on the canvas just as much as you can shift them around inside the cup. So if something's too red or too purple or whatever the case might be, you can use the colors opposite to kind of shift that color around, which is what I do a lot of when I paint. So I don't really worry too much about getting the color right on my first go. In fact, I don't really care to get the color right at all. I care to get the values correct more than anything. And what happens is I don't always set out to get my skin tones to be absolutely correct, yet I always kind of end up with something that's pretty correct. In fact, that's anytime I draw or paint anything. I'm never really aiming for realism. I guess I am, but I'm not mentally aiming for it. I just kind of land on it. See, I need this piece. So sometimes what happens, so I had this airbrush sitting for a minute, and sometimes the top can get clogged. So make sure you have like a pick or something to make sure that the vent hole is open. How's everybody doing? Is everybody digging the information so far? I'm doing a little more, I guess, teaching this time. Or at least just explaining my thoughts. I like to work very, very transparent when I paint. I like to earn my values. I think a lot of people, they try to get their values too quickly. And I mean, not all people, but I don't. I try to like earn them, you know, with several layers. So this color is just right on the money. It's not really spraying that well though. That's what I get for not preparing my airbrushes before the stream. Sometimes I just jump right into it because I was tattooing earlier today. And I just finished the tattoo and then grabbed something real quick to eat and jumped right into streaming. I could avoid that by just cleaning my airbrushes in the first place, but I guess I'm lazy. Boy, that's a nice color right there. So does anybody have any questions for me about what's up right now or what's going on with the process? No, this airbrush. Damn it. That's what I get for not cleaning them. So I'm going to be fighting the airbrush the whole stream because I didn't clean it. So Dennis wants to know if it helps me more using the tablet than a copy. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I think I didn't start doing this like micro realistic stuff till I started using a tablet. And my first tablet was, it was called a Note Pro or Note, Galaxy Note or something like that. And then when the iPad Pro came out, I switched to that. I recommend an iPad Pro for every artist these days. It's kind of like a necessity, and if you're going to be a professional artist, I think anymore. In fact, this is my second iPad Pro, and I think I'm already, well, I'm very, very tempted to get the third generation of the iPad Pro. So Gunther wants to know, what can you do when you tip dry and spill or spit? Is that what you're trying to say, spit? Let me put my chair up. So tip dry. What tip dry is, that's when your reducer is either too fast drying, or your air pressure is too high, or your paint isn't reduced enough. So a good rule of thumb is the higher your air pressure, the less amount of reducer you use. The lower your air pressure, the more reducer that you use. Also, if you're getting a lot of tip dry, you want to use a reducer that is a little bit slower. So your paint is less likely to dry on the tip of your needle. So the tip dry, of course, you guys know, it's when a lot of paint gathers up at the tip of your needle and it kind of funnels and builds up a pressure, and then eventually, after all that pressure builds up, it'll spit out of there. And so the way to prevent this is, of course, to get your reducer ratio right. Use a good quality paint. If you're not using Createx, I can't really speak on that too much. I know Createx is good quality paint, but if you're doing this fine detail stuff, I do definitely recommend the illustration colors. Also, get in a habit of picking the paint off of your needle. I'm always doing this. I'm grabbing and I'm picking the paint off my needle, or I spray out. You guys will hear that sound when I'm going. I'm spraying out, just making sure that ink is still moving, or that paint is still moving. Also, have a clean airbrush. Today, I do not have a clean airbrush, so you can see what it's like to fight your airbrush when you haven't cleaned it. Just like every stream, I'm sure you guys are used to it by now. I never clean my airbrushes properly, and so and then when I'm streaming, I don't really have a chance to go and clean them. So you guys just get to watch me fight it. The Patreon, by the way, guys, for those of you that are on my Patreon, that's going to continue like normal next month. It will be a cheaper pay scale. All the content will be the same. We're still going to do the live stream, still making the tutorial videos. They're not happening as quickly as I thought, so I want to go ahead and build up a nice catalog of tutorial videos before I charge you guys any kind of premium price for it. So you guys can just be along for the ride as we build a catalog of tutorial videos. And these live streams I'm just going to keep doing because they're fun and I enjoy it. What's up, Easy Airbrush? Make sure you pay attention to micro details, guys. Here's another reason why the tablet's so good. You can zoom in and focus on certain little points. You guys can see that in frame. So if I'm working on the thumb, I can put the thumb right up there and focus on it. Is this how you know my airbrush isn't working well? I'm pulling the trigger right now. Nothing's happening. Goodness. What's up, Gunther? What's up, Ultramine? So where's everybody from tonight? Where's everybody hanging out with us from? Anybody from different countries? Maybe this one? The good old US of A. Canada, what's up, Phil? Virginia, Bulgaria. Well, welcome to our live stream. Man, I would love to come and visit some of these countries. I still have never left the United States. I mean, I've been to Cozumel, but I don't really count that because it's just an island. Iowa. Well, I'm in Florida, as some of you may already know. I'm originally from Oklahoma, near Oklahoma City, a small town called Arcadia, Oklahoma. And we moved to Florida just recently to open this tattoo studio that I'm in right now. Ohio, Scott Ryan. Texas. Yep, I spent a lot of years in Texas. I think I say that I'm from Texas a lot, even though technically I'm not really from Texas. I'm from Oklahoma City, but I spent, I don't know, about 11 or 12 years there, collectively, something like that. A good portion of my 20s and a good portion of my 30s I was in Texas, but then I went back to Oklahoma. So I learned how to airbrush after I left Texas and I moved back to Oklahoma. That's when I learned how to airbrush, and then I decided to get into tattoos, and then I moved back to Texas. That's where I really learned to tattoo. Well, I learned to tattoo originally in California, but then I developed my skills in Texas, and then now I'm in Florida. So I've been all over the country. Not a lot of the East Coast, though. We don't really go there too often, although I'd love to. The Rockies of Alberta. Man, I'll bet that's fun. I'm missing the mountains right now. Down here in Florida, it's kind of like if you're in the mountains, you'll miss the ocean. If you're in the ocean, you'll miss the mountains. Like, it's whatever. But when I was in Oklahoma, there was nothing, so I just miss my family. That's about all that's in Oklahoma. Texas, I think Texas was great for business. A lot of good business in Texas. The economy's pretty stable. Well, the money's right. Alex is listening to the stream today, laughing. I wonder if I can clean this airbrush and not sacrifice losing my paint. I'm not going to try it. It would take too much time. Would you guys want to see me clean my airbrush for 10 minutes? Or would that be boring? Probably don't have all my tools close to me anyway for cleaning. Rob wants to know if some of the old Patreon courses will come to YouTube. Well, I want to be fair to the patrons, and if they paid for it, I'd rather it stay for them. The dog portrait, I still need to do the final layer on anyway. Phil says, cleaning the airbrush is reality. Yeah, it is, and I haven't done it. I really need to clean my micron. So I let my micron sit for a week, and today I went to grab it, and it was, yeah, it was pretty solid, filled with paint. So I thought I could get away with just a quick cleaning, and that wasn't the case. I think I need to make some more color. So let's start from where we were. Going back to the Coagulated Crimson, wherever that went, right here. And then what did we do? We did the Vienna. So my color is too thin right now. So I gotta build it back up, make it stronger. And since I was talking about it, I remember what I did. So we're a little on the green side, so let's add some Coagulated Crimson back to it. So if it sprays out green, you know you need to add red. There we go. Perfect. I think it could even use a little bit of violet. Maybe on the next layer. Ultramind says you haven't bought your first. Dude, if you're going to get your first airbrush, get the Iwata Eclipse HPCS. That's the best airbrush, best starter airbrush. I'm using it right now. It'll be your best airbrush forever. Rob says soak the micron. Yeah, I'll soak it. I actually have some auto air restorer here. I just got to do it. I started streaming before I realized how bad it was. But I have some restorer. I've got 2 or 3 bottles of it somewhere. You know what? I am going to add a little bit of, let's see what I got here. Blue. I remember last time I was looking for some violet. I wonder if I found it. Yes, I did. I got red violet right here. Easy says, you know, the rule of thumb is to practice, but you really want control like the pros. You know what, man? I never practiced my control over the airbrush. I just started painting. And it just kind of happens over time. Like, I always thought that airbrushing was the most intimidating thing ever. And I was terrified to do it because I thought I would never have control over my hands or be able to do some of those crazy moves that airbrushers do. But then I just started painting. I never practiced. I just painted pictures. And eventually, over time, I just had control. I don't know. It just happens. So I say just keep doing it, and eventually you'll just wake up one day and just know what you're doing. Clint wants to know if details are more forgiving. Yeah, they're definitely more forgiving. Like when I was painting that lowrider recently, it was very, very little. I only had about 4 inches of space to do entire murals, 4 inches up and down, but it was infinite, you know, because it was like 6 feet long. But yeah, I had to do several little murals, and it's not forgiving at all. No, I mean, you can get away with a lot if you build slowly and do a lot of layers, but these big paintings are a lot more forgiving. Plus, the way the style that I'm painting in right now is a pretty forgiving style. It's funny how black a purple will look when there's no black around. Brian says it's a good idea to pre-mix paint with reducer and mixing bottles ahead of time. Yeah, it probably is. But I don't ever do it. So I've got a very clean color here with no black in it at all. But when you don't have any black on your canvas, sometimes the really clean colors will look very muddy and black. But then when you put an actual black or a real dark next to it, it all lightens up. It's kind of crazy to watch. So I've been letting my hair go for a while. And tomorrow I'm finally going to get a haircut. Yeah, so none of this scruffy, scraggly crap. I thought I was going to like see how long I could go, and apparently not very long. I used to have really long hair. But I don't know. I think my long hair days are over. But tomorrow, back to pretty boy. Back to clean cut. I actually have to go to Dallas tomorrow. I'm tattooing in Dallas for a week, I think. So I fly out tomorrow, going back to Dallas. And I have a good friend who cuts my hair there. So I've been kind of just saving it for when I see her. So Easy say you poured into 1 ounce droppers. Yeah, I actually started carrying these around um, for saving my paint. I got these at Hobby Lobby, and I think you can buy them at Amazon too. But yeah, you're right. Keep them in 1 ounce cups. Yeah, that's definitely a better practice. I just started doing that. I used to just mix all my paint in the cup, which I still do. But then once it was gone, and I would throw it away and then remix it the next time. Which is actually close to how you have to tattoo. Like in tattoos, you have to mix the color as you go, and then when that color wears off, and you know, 3 or 4, dips, you got to make the color again. It's kind of so you got to really have a good understanding for color. I feel like sometimes, I guess it depends on what kind of mind you are or what kind of brain, left or right brain or whatever. Um, but I think sometimes people can over explain color. Um, I guess it depends on if you're a technical person or if you're, a more like I am, organically minded person. I like to make things intuitive rather than a bunch of like, I guess, textbook style lessons. Like the way I understand things is just by doing it and talking about it and thinking about it, and it makes sense in my head. But I don't think I could like write a book about it. So those of you whose tablets, do you guys ever like grab your painting and try to like blow it up? Because I do that all the time. Because I'll get all like in my head and shit, and I'll just be like, "What? Stupid." I get on autopilot when I do things. Like, I think what happens is like my brain just takes off on its own, and I'll be I guess consciously thinking about something completely different than what my actions are. Phil wants to know if I prefer tattoos or airbrushing. I think for my artwork, like my expressive art, my personal art, I prefer airbrushing. But for a living, as a career, I prefer tattooing. Simply because I just like the interaction between clients. I will say though, like as fun as tattooing is, it can be a bit nerve wracking at times because, um, sometimes you don't perform very well, and it's kind of a bummer. But that's part of it. You do your best, and uh, you try to be the best that you can be at all times, and yeah, but it can be a little bit stressful sometimes. Especially when people want you to do cover ups, man. Woo! That's about the most stressful thing you can do. It's like you're already unhappy with your tattoo, right? And then you come to me with your already botched tattoo and you're like, hey, make this better. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. It's like For those of you that work on cars, imagine somebody brings you in a wrecked car and you're not allowed to buy parts for it or anything. You have to kind of paint over the top of it, you know? It's like filling it with Bondo instead of like replacing the part or welding in replacement parts. It's kind of like patching in rust with Bondo. That's what it feels like doing cover up sometimes because that original damage or that original tattoo will always be there. It's not like painting a wall where you put paint on top of it and then it covers the old paint. When you do a tattoo, the ink lives inside somebody's skin. It's in there. It's liquid. Your skin is a vessel. It holds it like a container. So when you put more ink inside of it, it's just mixing in with it. So it's not like you're covering it up. You're mixing it up. You're blending it out. So it's very difficult and very stressful. Yeah. I know people make it. And another thing, those tattoos you see online, a lot of them are fresh. So you see these fresh tattoos online where these really great cover-ups, but what the deal is all that ink is still sitting on top of the skin. It hasn't had a chance to settle. So you're looking at the best version of the cover-up that's going to exist because it's fresh. And so it misleads people into thinking cover-ups are some miracle like painting over a wall, but it's not. Boy, this airbrush is just not liking me today. This is what I get for not fucking cleaning out my airbrush. Sorry about my language. I forget sometimes to watch my language. Sorry. I do the same thing when I go to like family events. I'll forget that there's children around. I'll just be talking. Then some cuss words come out and I'm like, oh, crap. I mean, darn it. I mean, never mind. Because now my nieces and nephews they're older now. So, gotta watch my language. So does anyone have any, anything that you want me to talk about specifically, like advice-wise? See, AWOL knows what I'm talking about. So, AWOL reminded me of we were talking about cover-ups and how it's comparable to like putting Bondo over Rust. There's a friend of the family. He's since passed away due to cancer, but I remember he had this old Merc that he wanted my dad to paint for him, and that thing had been chopped so many times. It had Bondo on top of Bondo, paint job on top of paint job, rust on top of rust, and it was just pretty much, it was a big pile of Bondo. And he was asking my dad to paint it, and we went out there and looked at it, and we're looking at all this cracked Bondo all over it, and my dad and me are looking at it, and we're like, his name was Jerry, and we're like, Jerry, I don't know, man, like in order to do this, we're going to have to take some of that Bondo off, or take that Bondo off, and once we do, we don't know what's under there. There's probably even barely a car underneath all that Bondo. And he was like, nah, just paint over it. And we were like, no, Jerry, we can't do that. Like, we can't guarantee it. It's going to crack right back out. We're going to do all this work and put this really great paint job on your car, and then it's going to last like 2, 3, 4 years maybe. And I remember him going like, he goes, I don't think I have that long anyway. And then, so the quote I always use whenever somebody tells me just to like paint it or just tattoo it, I remember right after that, he goes, just put some paint on it, Robin. Which my dad's name is Robin. So now every time somebody's like, asked me to do a cover up, they're like, no, you can do it. I don't care. I think of Jerry going, just put some paint on it, Robin. Oh, goodness. What's up, Leon? Another day avoiding your own work. Yeah, tell me about it. I'll tell you, man, since I started doing these live streams, they've really held me accountable. So, like, normally today, because I worked on I tattooed all day long, and then I have to catch a flight tomorrow, I would have just gone home and not worked on this painting. But because I want to stay, I want to make sure that I'm staying consistent and bringing you guys content and sharing my artwork with everyone. It holds me accountable, and now here I am working. So I feel you when it comes to procrastination. Trust me, I definitely was thinking about just going home today, because it's already been a long day, but I'm here painting like I should be doing. Boy, that mic run really would come in handy right now. Getting some of these details in. Especially on the face. I'm kind of worried about starting the face right now while my airbrush isn't really working that well. Not that the airbrush is broken. I neglected it for those of you that are just tuning in. You see how much contrast there is in the skin right now? When I start adding the darker tones in, like especially right here under her neck and right over here, and then the darker colors in her eyes and ears, you're going to notice this skin is going to go from something that looks very, very dark to looking very, very light. And then we'll actually even likely have to add more dark to it. So I think I should add some yellow to it now. So it's kind of, the skin tone kind of dances between some bluish because it's reflecting off of the hair. And so there's some bluish around here that I'm going to add later. And then some of it near the skin tone that's more in the sunlight has actually got a little more yellow in it. I didn't even test my color. So this was a thing I didn't know was I didn't know it was something that people didn't know until I started teaching. Getting hung up on my cord. When you're trying to get a straight line and you're not using any stencils or shields or whatever, it really helps to point down into the line. So I've got this line just on this side of her top and her strap right here, and it's very, very thin line. And so what I'm going to do, well, I can get thinner if I use my micron, but I'm going to do it with my clips. What I do is I point down into the line, so I get almost parallel with my panel. I turn my airbrush down, so I point it down, and then I start moving back and forth until I get a nice flow, like that, and then I just point down into the line. And it controls my overspray, so my overspray don't go sideways. So I thought that was something just everyone knew, but like I said, when I started teaching classes, I found out that it wasn't. So there's a little lesson for you guys. You know, another thing I didn't know that not everyone knew, and I found this out when I was teaching too, if you want to get a huge blast of color. So if you wanted to cover like this panel and really paint a lot of it, if you grab the needle chuck while you've got the trigger pulled down, and you grab the needle chuck and you just pull back on it right here, it'll put out a much bigger pattern, and you can cover more ground that way. So you'll see me, which I'm not going to do it here, but if I'm painting a big surface, I'll push the trigger down and I'll grab the needle chuck and pull back on it, and it drenches it with paint. Another thing I didn't know wasn't common until I started teaching. So if you guys are watching with us today, go ahead and give a comment. Let us know, or let me know what's up. Let me know how you're doing, that you're here, that you're enjoying it. I kind of depend on your comments to give me something to talk about. Otherwise, I just sit here and paint in silence, being very boring. That's what I said. It's awfully quiet. I know. You guys gotta give me something to talk about. Just no politics or religion. Other than that, let's talk about it. It's coffee talk. What was I gonna do? Oh, I was gonna add yellow. How many airbrushes do I own? The question is, how many functional airbrushes do I own? So, how many airbrushes do I own? I don't know, probably 30. How many working airbrushes do I own? Currently, 2. I've got a lot of airbrushes that are in pieces, or that need cleaned and I haven't cleaned them, or... I am very, 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 very bad about taking care of my airbrushes, as you guys have seen tonight by me not having my airbrush ready to go. So yeah, there's much more contrast in the reference for sure. So I build it up very, very slowly. Very slowly. I don't, because I mix my colors as I go, um, I don't try to hit the contrast right out of the gate. Like right now I'm about to go into the fingers, so what I did is I'm trying to make a more orangey color. Because each layer, what I find when I finish a painting, the more layers I put into it, the more alive my painting looks, the more fleshy it looks, because you can see all those layers kind of living underneath each other. So I never try to get my full contrast or my full values right out of the gate. Never, never, never. I try to give myself as many layers as possible within reason. I think I need a little more yellow in this.
Hey, am I giving you a ride home tonight?
Nah.
You sure?
Yes.
You walking?
No, Faith's coming.
She's making you walk.
Alex is hanging out. I think he wants to go to bed.
I'm hungry.
Faith left me here tonight so she could go home and clean. All right. I think I'm getting closer to the color that I need. I still think it needs yellow. Let's see. See, with each layer, it gets darker. So even though I have barely even changed the color in my airbrush, it still gets darker with each layer.
Hey, don't we get darker with each time?
Yes, Alex, it gets darker with each layer.
That's important.
So Clint wants to know about copyright boundaries with my images. So long as I'm not selling my images, copyright doesn't matter. But with images that I want to do something with, I always ask permission from the photographer. Currently, I'm working on actually getting to do my own photography, but haven't gotten there yet. So this is actually, the woman's name is Riki or Ruki. I can't remember her name. I'll have to put it up. It'll be in my, if you guys look at my Instagram, I tag her every time that I do a progress shot of this. I try to tag her in the photo. She's, man, see, I want to say she's from Russia, but I could be wrong, so I don't want to say that. But I don't ever want to misrepresent somebody. But this is a mermaid photographer that I found online through Instagram, and I sent her a message and asked her if I could paint it for you guys, and she said yes. So that's what I'm doing. And being that I live in Florida, I'm hoping that I can get to where I can do my own photography. So Faith and I have been planning on doing that, just haven't gotten around to it yet. And so Faith is planning on modeling for a few mermaid pieces, and then we have another friend that lives here too, and she's planning on modeling for us. And I kind of want to keep doing more and more mermaid pieces. So, Alex, you can go to bed, bro. Alex is over here yawning. I think he's trying to say something. What are you trying to say? Well, then go and get. Why? I'm fine.
You never been without me, right?
I'm fine, dude. Alex is always hanging out with our live streams, and he doesn't want to leave me alone. You can do it. You can leave me alone, bud. Can airbrush paint expire? I think it can. Usually it hardens up or crystallizes. I've definitely seen some airbrush paint go bad for sure. Go on get, brah. Go on. Go on. No, I'm going to do it tomorrow. So, you say you saw somebody get stung by selling a painting using someone else's images? Yeah, see, I'd never do that. In fact, I've never even sold prints before. Yeah. So I actually have full intentions on doing my own photography. It's just hasn't happened yet. In fact, Alex, the guy that just left, me and him have been talking quite a bit about setting up a studio space just for photography and for references. And like I said, being that we're in Florida, we can actually go get mermaid tails and props and different things, and we can go shoot our own references. Right now, I kind of consider this mermaid piece more practice than anything. I'm not really going to do anything with it when I'm done. Just keep it here at the shop. So. There we go. So I think of this more like doing a cover song in a dive bar. It's not like I'm recording it and putting it out as a record. I'm just covering it. I have actually done my own photography in the past. If you guys remember, I did a blue motorcycle. I don't know if you've seen it on my Facebook page, and it has a bunch of Hollywood starlets, and they're all playing strip poker. It's on a bagger. That whole thing, I staged and photographed all the references myself. A lot of the references is my girlfriend, my cousin, and my cousin's friend, and a few other friends came over, and we set up a table, and we posed in different poses to match the faces of the celebrities, so that we could create a piece that was strip poker is what we were doing. So Marilyn Monroe was the loser of the strip poker scene, so you can see she's topless and she's holding up her bra. There's Betty Davis is in there, Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, it was a cool piece. And then the bike is actually wrecked. So the lesson in that is if you're going to spend that much time and effort on a piece that's original, don't do it on a motorcycle. Because I could probably still be selling prints of that right now if I would have done it on a panel. Everybody's always told me to do that one on a panel, but I don't know. I get bored of things. Once I've done them once, I don't want to do it again. Then again, it's been enough years now. I don't know. Maybe I could revisit it. I think I did that about 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I still have the references somewhere, I think. A lot of the paintings I did of Faith, those are all originals too, of course. I mean, so Rob says I could. Yeah, I do have some photos. I gotta dig them up. Actually, Javier Soto once was trying to convince me that I could Photoshop the photos to make them, print quality. I haven't taken the time to do it, I guess. I definitely haven't spent enough time on my fine art type stuff. That's kind of what this channel is kind of helping me do is, I mean, I've got so many paintings just from when I started streaming and doing the Patreon that I went a whole year and I didn't paint anything because I was tattooing. And now I have a reason to paint again. So maybe I can start accumulating stuff that I can make prints out of. And I do think that I want to focus on kind of mermaid art, just because of where I'm located and the fact that I've always been into that sort of artwork. I just like the idea of it. I like fantasy. I love fantasy art, but I'm kind of done. Like, I don't like the whole like Lord of the Rings style of fantasy because it's just played out to me. I'm really fascinated with aquatic fantasy. So like the Kraken and pirates and mermaids and Atlantis and that whole thing. I'm fascinated by it. If I'm bored and there's nothing to watch on TV, I'll put it on National Geographic or whatever, and I'll find anything under the sea, HD, and I'll just put it on TV and I'll watch that. So I would love to. That's probably the direction I'm headed in. Is kind of aquatic fantasy art. Like I said, now that I live in Florida, I have a lot of places to pull reference from. And I'm hoping to take up scuba diving soon. Well, not just hoping, I am going to take up scuba diving soon. And start gathering some underwater references. So what's unsplash.com? I guess that's unlicensed, like free references. I'm honestly moving super slow just because I'm fighting the airbrush. Every move I make is the paint is spraying too heavy. Because I got to pull the trigger back that far just to get paint to come out. Because there's obviously some paint buildup inside the fucking, what do you call it? The fluid nozzle. I really do apologize about my language. It comes out sometimes and I don't mean it. So I watched this YouTuber or live streamer called Ryukar. And if you watch his old videos, he definitely cusses a lot. But then if you watch his new ones, he uses a lot of alternative cuss words. And I need to learn those. I need to put those in my vocabulary. Like fudge. Like, fudge. All right, I think I got the body part of her skin tone right. I'm gonna wait and do her face when I've cleaned the airbrush. So I think what I'm gonna do is move on to some of the darker tones just so we can see how dark the actual skin tone is. So I'm gonna make this dark color down here. Let's see if I can save this color, which I don't really need to. I know how to make it, but actually, should I finish the hand? I'm gonna finish the hand up here first. So for those of you that are learning or new to this type of painting, yeah, that's Airbrush. A lot of times it's hard to read your values. So putting something next to your values that's really dark really does help with reading the values a lot better. Find something to do this over so I don't spill it. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna make a mess if I do this. I think I might just dump the color. Trash it. All right, now I'm gonna make this. It's a very bluish black. So this is the background color. So I'm gonna start with blue and add some black. See if I can find my black around here. For those of you that are looking, I'm trying to make, let's see if I can, I'm trying to make this color right here. So start with blue. And I'm going to get up and find some black right now. I know it's around. Oh, it's back behind me. Be right back. We got 27 people. What's up, everybody? Say hi if you're here. Argentina in the house. How you doing? Isidoro. I hope I said your name correctly. All right, let's see what we did here. It's a very greenish blue. Let's see. Did I pour green in there? No? The way to kill green, red. So here in a minute, I'm going to test my color, and if it still looks green, I'll add a little bit of red to it. Oh, wait, no, there it is. No, it's got a green. a green to it. Let me add just a few drops of red in there. Which it's not a real red, it's actually Coagulated Crimson. But it should do the trick. Yeah, look how dark that is. Watch how light everything gets when I do this. I need to add some reducer to it. This is how you can get your eyes to really understand where you are in the value scale. Can I use Cmyk to mix colors? Yeah, you can, if you want to. I just used whatever colors are in front of me. I think if you understand the color wheel, you can do it any way you want. It doesn't matter if you use CMYK or red, green, blue, or sorry, my voice is cracking. It's because I'm projecting my voice, and when I do that, it cracks. But I'm actually using nothing but off colors. I really don't have any true clean colors. I've got illustration red, violet. I've got Viridian instead of green. I've got Coagulated Crimson instead of red. I've got, I think it's called Cerulean Blue. So I think it's neat to not use clean colors. I like to use dirty colors because I like for my piece to look interesting, and I think using kind of mixed up colors and weird colors kind of helps with that. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's just my theory. But yes, you can use CMYK. You don't need any other colors except for those ones. I've just been accustomed to just playing around. Ever since I started using Createx illustration colors, and I had so many of them to pick from, I just grab whatever looks good. I don't really even care what color it actually is, unless I'm going for a clean color, which is very rare. Remember how dark this looked right here? And now watch how light it gets. Again, I'm only really putting this here to give my eyes kind of a gauge. Now we know what the dark looks like. So Ultramind says you like recipe for colors and you came from digital. Then yes, I say whatever you find to be most comfortable for you is what you should use. There's no like right and wrong answer. There's only whatever version of the answer is true to you. I always say knowledge is just tools for your toolbox. Use whatever tool necessary to get the job done. Just make sure you have plenty of tools. So make sure you have as much knowledge as possible. Whether it be from me or from someone else or whatever, just learn, and then when the time comes, use whatever tool you need. So if that's CMYK for you, then use CMYK. So we're probably going to kill the stream here in just a bit. My battery's dying on my tablet, and as I mentioned before, I have to get on a plane tomorrow, going to Dallas to do some tattooing. I'm going to be there for about a week, and we do plan on live streaming some tattoos soon. Just haven't gotten around to it yet, and yeah, that's something to look forward to in the coming weeks. So all this stuff that's really green so far, that's still my underpainting. So that's going to go to blue, and I'm going to match this reference fairly close. Oh, I started doing it. Remember earlier I was like, do I ever grab my painting like a tablet? I just did. Does anybody have any more questions before we go? We still have. Well, my tablet says 10%. So when that dies, I'll finish up by answering some questions and sign off after that. Rob says, if you stop learning, you stagnate. Very, very, very true. I'm forever learning. Forever. I learn from everybody, even my own students. I learn from them. In fact, I learn quite a bit from students. I learn quite a bit from you guys doing these streams. You guys make suggestions sometimes, and I'm like, whoa, never thought of that. I used to watch a lot of those tutorial videos back in the day when I was learning to airbrush, and my old boss at Rebel Muse, she had a tutorial video, and I was watching somebody watch it, and they were joking and laughing because she was so thorough about her, because she teaches a lot about color theory, and a lot of it was redundant, and a lot of it they felt was common sense, or not common sense, but more like elementary, and they were laughing and making jokes about it, and I got so upset because some of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned was from watching somebody teach something I already knew. And I just wait and listen, and sometimes mixed in their speech, they say something so profound and so meaningful and so helpful that it changes everything about my artwork. So there's never a time when somebody's giving a lecture about something I'm passionate about, like painting or tattooing, that I ever take that for granted. Even if they're saying stuff I already know, I just want to hear their perspective. So if you're that person that ever thinks that you know enough and you don't need the lecture or you don't need the speech or the conversation, which if you're here, you're likely not. But just remember that. You can learn from anywhere, from anyone, as long as you've got an open ear. You don't know what you might hear. He wants to know, when do I think I'll start streaming again? Well, like I said, I'm going to be in Dallas for a week, so I think next weekend I will be in Dallas, so I might not stream then. But I'm definitely streaming the week after. So the first of the month, I'm definitely streaming, and I'm going to be keeping very consistent with Sundays. The only time you'll catch me not stream on Sunday if something comes up. Like yesterday, it was Father's Day, and you never know. You know, some days I actually do like to spend my Sundays with, you know, my friends and family. But if I'm not doing anything like that, I'm definitely going to be streaming from here on out. And hopefully we'll get more interesting content in the future. I'm just kind of building content at this point. So you guys are here at the beginning, and you get to watch me work on this mermaid. And in the future, you guys will have this mermaid archived, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, he worked on that for like 3 months. I remember. So right now I'm just blocking in dark tones. Again, if you guys are just tuning in, the reason I'm blocking in these dark tones is just so my eyes have a good gauge for where the dark tones are. So I'm not really trying to paint too much, just trying to establish dark tones. So we got a question. Give me just a second and I'll answer it. I'm gonna add a little blue to this and then I'll answer this question. Looks like Faith is here. What's up, Faith? So the question is, so you're moving the needle consistently. Is that better than just pulling back slowly, more control? So I'm going to try to understand the question if I can. So I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but I'll just describe. Look how dirty my hands are. I'll just describe how I pull down the needle. If you want to always have the needle down. You always want to have the air moving, but I only really bump the flow. So right now, because my Eclipse is so dirty, I have to pull the trigger back quite a bit to get the ink or to get the paint to flow. And that's the reason why everything's kind of choppy right now, but I'm going to smooth that out later. But usually I'm barely bumping the needle that much. And about every stroke that I make is about similar to that. I mean, you can barely see that I'm pulling the trigger. And always having the air moving. Yeah. And also, you know, this is kind of technical, but if you guys don't already know, you should always fly in and fly out to every stroke. That means another time. The reason I'm saving that lesson for another time is it's really a whole lesson in of itself. So I'll get into that in another stream. See how I'm kind of blocking in all of my dark tones, just kind of putting them here and there. It's kind of helping the shape come to form, I suppose. The key to doing some of these big paintings is not to force anything. Just kind of allow things to happen as they do. Getting in a hurry is really, I mean, for me, there's no benefit to it. I mean, I definitely have paintings that I do fast, but this isn't one of them. You guys have definitely, if you've watched my live streams, you've seen me do fast ones. Rob says fly in and fly out. Is that from Bodywork? Honestly, I don't know if I got that from my dad or if I got that from myself. I don't know where I got it from. But yeah, I learned to fly in and fly out from painting cars. I do remember my dad teaching me to spray, and I'd have no idea how old I was at the time, probably pretty young. But yeah, fly in and fly out and flick you flick the paint at both sides. But yeah, I run the airbrush exactly the same. In fact, I tattoo the same way too. It's funny, when I'm teaching somebody to tattoo, I use paint references. I'm like, I always say this as if they know what I'm talking about. I'm like, it's just like painting a car. You fly in and you fly out. They don't know what the hell I'm talking about. They never painted a car before. But the fly in and fly out reference is referencing an airplane coming in for landing. The airplane comes in at a smooth motion, and then once it hits the tarmac, that's when the paint starts to flow. But actually, the paint starts flowing before it hits tarmac. Kind of like, but what you do is you always go out at that gradual kind of curve. You never come back and forth. You never run your paint and go. You always fly in, so it's and fly out. That's how your paint should flow. And as long as you are on the tarmac or on the surface of your canvas, you keep a level pattern. So it's fly in, stay level, then fly out. And then it becomes muscle memory and you do it without thought. That's the thing, when people are learning to do something and it's so intimidating, they're thinking about pulling the trigger, making the paint flow, yada, yada, yada. There's so many things going on in your mind, but once you've been doing it for a while, your brain doesn't even go. Like, I can paint without, like, I'm talking to you guys right now. I'm not even thinking about my finger. Well, I probably should be, because I'm kind of getting out of the lines here. Rob says his first airbrush was a single action. Woo! Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I definitely did not. I wasn't around for the single action days. My first airbrush was an Iwata TH. It was a pull trigger airbrush because I was trying to mimic holding a paint gun. Now, I'm kind of mean, I guess. Whenever I have a student who has a TH style airbrush with a pull trigger, and they're painting with that because they're used to using a paint gun, I always give them a hard time. Because I'm like, oh, well, let me know when you're ready to come off of the training wheels and use a real bicycle or a real motorcycle. But because I do consider that training wheels. If you're used to using a paint gun and then you go to an airbrush, but you use a pull trigger airbrush because you're too intimidated by this action, well, essentially it's training wheels. And I've definitely caught myself being a little too mean to the students sometimes when I'm picking on them. All right, Rob. Well, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and call it right there because, like I said again, I need to go ahead and I need to catch a plane tomorrow, and I have a lot of packing and a lot of things to do. Likely won't stream next weekend or this coming weekend, but I will definitely be back the following weekend and every weekend following that. So we're gonna get this mermaid done sooner or later, and you guys will be along for the ride the whole time. And I really do thank you for being here for this one. I'm sorry it wasn't a very eventful stream. I just wanted to make sure that you guys, that I did something this week. And like I said, it's been a long day for me, so I apologize. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.